Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts, Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we're reviewing In the Spirit of the Holidays, Christmas, Bloody Christmas, streaming on SHUDDER. Oh boy, this should be fun. All right, with me this week is my co-host, the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff Mohr, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm loving these Christmas movies.
Yes, yes. Every season we get them. All right, also joining us is award-winning filmmaker, Christopher G. Mohr. How you doing? I'm just here with the Paramours.
Okay. I'm looking for Sarah Christmas. I'm doing well.
I know where you're going with that. I felt it.
Who's Paramore though? That's
Paramore. There's more of them. There's Paramore. Is it? Oh,
yeah,
God.
it's a
jokes run
musician
wild.
joke, and but yeah, you have to be a certain age to understand. Which I'm surprised Doc could even make that reference. He must have learned it from his kids.
So, did you ever see the Tombstone Epitaph, Chris? And it's actually in Tombstone, Arizona. That said, "Here lies what's left of Lester Mohr. 4 shots from a 44, no less, no more."
I think I've seen that.
No less or more. All right, here we go. We are here to review Christmas, Bloody Christmas. We're going to start out giving you our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free, and then we'll dive into a discussion. We will get into spoilers, and spoilers there are in this one. Not big ones, but big enough. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. And, of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others we have on the site. And if you would, hit the subscribe, like, and share with a friend and help us get to 5,000 subscribers. Only you can do that. They won't let us. Only you can do it. That we hope to. And, of course, we want to hear what you have to say, so leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Let's take a look at the card before I screw this up, shall we? Christmas. Bloody Christmas. Available streaming on SHUDDER beginning December 9th, 2022, and in theaters if you are lucky. Synopsis is a Christmas Eve and Tori just wants to get drunk and party. A little bit more if you ask me. And when a robotic Santa Claus at a nearby toy store goes haywire and begins a rampant killing spree through her small town, she's forced to battle for survival. Written and directed by Joe Begos, starring Riley Dandy, Sam Delich, Jonah Ray, Dora Madison, Jeff Daniel Phillips, Abraham Van Ruby, Jeremy Gardner, and Graham Skipper. It's Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Let's start off. Christopher G. Mohr. What was your first impression of Christmas, Bloody Christmas?
I really enjoyed this. It definitely pulls from a lot of things. It's almost like it's almost like a slasher film happened in like the movie High Fidelity or Empire Records or Clerks, because there's a lot of dialogue that seems very like out of one of those movies, where they're talking about like music and movies. Although the main character, the main female character, has a shitty idea for what's great. of certain movies in the horror franchise, at least in my opinion. But yeah, it has a little bit of Terminator, has a little bit of RoboCop. Actually, the opening actually is reminiscent of RoboCop a little bit. So it's got a little bit of all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think I've joked before we were reviewing this that it was sort of like a Santa Claus version of Chopping Mall to some degree as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's got a lot of those elements, but I think like a lot of this director's movies, it has that indie feel to it. And I'm talking about like those, just your indie comedies or indie movies that we see, which you don't see a lot of slasher films have that element. So it to me, it makes it feel different than your traditional slashers. But yeah, it's got, I mean, I think my only critique would be, I kind of wish the Santa Claus character had more of a fake face to it, you know,
Mhm.
because it just seemed like a normal guy. A normal guy dressed as, and he wasn't even trying. It was they had sound effects to him, you know, almost like
Mhm.
RoboCop sounds, but he still looked like a normal guy. So I kind of wish they'd gotten a performer to actually, you know, make him move, you know, a little bit more robotic at times. But I guess he's supposed to be realistic. But that was my only takeaway. Although when he starts falling apart, that it gets more where you know, where he needs to be, I guess. But yeah, it's got a lot of cool lighting and stuff, and I don't know, I had a lot of fun, even though at the beginning it's like, oh my gosh, this is so chatty Cathy, this whole movie, because it's just like,
Chatty
I feel
Cathy,
like
that's great.
when are we going to get to the horror? It's like all they're doing is just chatting about their music tastes and
Drinking and getting laid.
you know, there's no guys that'll give good oral and all these different things that are happening throughout the dialogue, and I'm like, okay, but I like the characters and stuff. And I actually, I was watching that guy looks like Jonah Ray. And I was like, I didn't even check I was like, no, that's not Jonah Ray. And I was like, it is Jonah Ray. When you read, I just figured that when you read the cast, I didn't even look on IMDb. So
Funny. Hilarious.
But yeah, it's got some really great gore that goes along with slasher type movies. And it definitely takes the final person through the rigors that you don't normally find in a lot of these films. She or he does not end up being unscathed
Yes.
by the end. But yeah, I mean, and it's very Terminator-esque. It's like this Santa Claus is hard to kill. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. It's a really entertaining. You care about the characters. They feel like real characters, you know, and I feel like this kind of geeky characters that we are, we're sitting around just talking about like what we like and what we don't like, you know. But yeah, overall it's good. And yeah, it definitely does. I mean, yeah, it doesn't shy away from anybody getting killed in this movie.
Anybody getting killed? Yes. I speaking of Terminator, I swear to you, I heard a dun 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 dun, or maybe
the music,
a variation of it. Yes,
there's a little bit of music as it, yeah, it does tie into that.
Yep. Jeff, sir, what was your first impression of Bloody Christmas?
No, I like this a lot. I will say it is. If you go back to Bliss, if I remember right, that had a lot of like super color saturation in some scenes. This one, there is no scene without this like super saturation of colors bathing the whole thing, you know, either whether it's red or magenta or blue or green, and many times with no real reason for it to be there. But it's kind of weird. You get used to it, and I thought it really added to it. There's a couple of kill scenes that are in kind of slow-mo with this blaring music and these colors, and it has a real hallucinatory but really energetic vibe to it. I don't know. I thought it was really good. Some of the stuff, I don't know what was going on. And we'll talk about that later. But you're right, Chris. It was like the first it's about 15 minutes or so before the Santa robot moves, maybe 18 minutes. And up until then, it's just rapid patter dialogue with as many F words splattered in as you can. You know, it's just, and it was hard to keep up with it for me anyway, but it was well done, even so. So my only complaint, even though I love the colors, was there was a couple times where I had a hard time telling what was going on because of the colors. I mean, it was so almost distorted what you were looking at, it or blurred out some of what you were seeing in the kills. I love Abraham Ben Ruby. I remember him from Open Range. I don't know if you guys watch westerns or not, but Kevin Costner movie from about 15 years ago with
yes. Well, he was also in ER. ER is where I remember him from.
Yeah. God, one of the best actors in the world. I can't think of his name. Anyway, Robert Duvall.
Oh, Robert Duvall. Yes.
So anyway,
he is one of the best actors in the world.
So and this is like has like the Joe Begos cast of usual suspects. A lot of these people are in Dora Madison, Jeremy Gardner, Graham Skipper, Josh Ethier, I think, is an editor in his last 3 movies, and he plays a small part. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And Violent, oh my God. And how many what's the dead count? I lost track. There's a few that die off screen, I assume. But anyway.
There's a whole gaggle of people that die off screen. Talk about them, can't get a hold of them.
So anyway, I enjoyed the heck out of it. I watched it a second time and I still loved it. It was again, the colors are wondrous. If you don't like super blown out colors, then you probably aren't going to like this. But otherwise, I don't know.
What? I enjoyed this as well. I want to really touch on the saturation, because that was one of the things that almost blew it for me, because there were times when I couldn't. It was just big red screen, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm colorblind, because I'm not seeing any definition at all at times when it's full on red everywhere. So that bothered me a bit, but at the same time, the dialogue between our leads, the Tori and Jay, right, Riley and Jonah, it felt so natural, and they felt the chemistry was strong, and you felt that the sexual tension between them, and it pays off. So I really enjoyed that leading up to when the kills start, and then of course they did some things that would make our dear friend Santos proud. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So in the end, I had a great time, and it's just. But we mentioned Terminator a bit, and when it gets full on Terminator mode, this movie just it's ready to kick ass, and it does. And there's nobody is safe, and it surprised me a couple times. There were some choices and decisions it made that truly shocked me. I was like, I didn't think they would do that. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Some of the effects are a little cheesy, look like water balloons getting smashed, but the other times they look really gross, and so there's a lot of good stuff happening. So I'm excited to talk about all that. But let's get into some details. We'll get into some spoilers here. We'll talk about certain deaths and certain scenes. This director is behind Bliss and VFW. Thank you. Yeah. And we reviewed both of those films. Well, there's more films that he did too. We reviewed those as well, but those were in 2019 and 2020, and we really enjoyed those.
I hated.
You didn't, but the rest of us did.
I didn't review it for the podcast, but I thoroughly hated Bliss.
Did you like VFW though?
I haven't seen VFW, but after watching this, it makes me want to see it. And also, what's his name? Jeff Daniel Phillips. He definitely redeems himself from the Monsters movie.
Monsters, yes, he does.
Because that was a piece of shit. But yeah, he's great. I mean, everybody's great in this. And I'll say, I was really sad, because even though I was like, man, how long is these conversations going to go? But I was really, you could definitely feel the chemistry between Riley,
Riley Dandy.
Yeah, Riley and Sam, their characters.
Oh, was it Sam?
Yeah, Sam
okay.
Delic.
Yes.
But I really liked their characters. Where I was like, I felt like I was watching a romantic comedy. Like, oh, I hope they hook up, And I love that you have a scene where. This is definitely not PG, but when he goes down on her or whatever, I really like that, because you don't see that in movies a lot. And it's not about him getting pleasure, it's him giving her pleasure. And I thought that was great, and then they didn't have sex, or they didn't have he didn't have sex with her right after. And I love that. I also love how the editing, when you have this horrible scene with blood squirting, I love that. I love it when they do the linear stuff between two different things happening, where you have this horrible thing that's all about wet liquids, and you have something else, and it
might be about wet liquids.
And I love that. I love how that worked together, but yeah, I really, but I love those characters, and even just other characters that sometimes would be asshole characters. You know, you can understand the situation because later on when the police show up and she's acting all crazy or whatever, and they're trying to figure out what happened, you can sort of understand how they might misinterpret that or how they deal with it. But at the same time, they're not total assholes about it. You know, they figure out, okay, something's happening. But yeah, I mean, the dialogue and stuff was very geeky heavy. You know, when she's talking about like her favorite, like of the franchises, like her favorite Blair Witch is Book of Shadows, her favorite Hellraiser is Hell on Earth, which I hate. I was like, as much as I think this girl is hot and I would want to date her, I'm not sure if I could agree with her movies. Too. Yes. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I love the characters. And you talked about the lighting and stuff. They definitely, it's more than just like having a light off to the corner. They have like these little lights on corners of even in her apartment. It's like lit in certain ways. You know, I don't know what her electric bill is, but I'm sure it's off the charts. And even outside of buildings, they have like strips of light. I mean, much more different weird lighting than people normally light stuff. But I think it added that sort of extra element of style to it that made up for the fact this is shot in a very indie fashion. Although I will agree there are certain times where you could, because of the darkness in certain areas, you couldn't see it, and maybe that kind of hid their ability to pull off certain shots. You have a lot of people that are split in half.
yes,
from the power of that Santa Claus's axe, and so I guess that kind of hides the fact that it was probably, you know, they didn't have to put as much effort into showing off the effects.
Well, there was a shot where she runs down her stairs, and I don't know, I didn't pick it up before, but when she runs down the stairs, along the wall on the stairs, there was 3 picture frames that had neon lights all around it, and there was like a yellow one, a red one, a blue one, and a green one, I think, or I don't know what 3 colors they were, but it was like, well, no wonder the lighting is so screwed. When they were in that bar before Jeff Daniels walks in, the sheriff, everything in the bar, I think, if I remember right, everything in the bar was lit red. And then when the sheriff comes in, or else it was blue. And then when the sheriff comes in, then all of a sudden the people are all lit red and the background in the bar was blue, or vice versa. I don't remember which, but it was interesting, you know?
Yeah. And I will say, from the very opening shot, when she shows up in the truck, I was thinking, because you can sort of see the lights on the side of the building are kind of flickering, which means that they were probably not the type of lights you would normally use on a set. Because there's certain types of light bulbs you can show the flickering of it. So I'm kind of wondering whoever the DP was pulling his hair out by the end of this, because the way you have to light things to make that you show things properly, because there's so many different lighting situations throughout. But I don't know, as someone that likes that kind of lighting, it made it for an interesting.
Well, I think that made it okay, because you knew it was obvious that it was intentional.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so
yeah, definitely.
I'm like, you know, they might have pushed it a little far for my viewing instruments capabilities at some point, but that's okay. I'm okay with them pushing it.
But even the lighting on the Santa villain, when he starts getting torn apart, he's got extra lights on him, and even like lights that shine out. So it's like
green.
Good gosh. Yeah. I was like, I was by the end, I was like, what is this? What does this military robot do?
I couldn't figure out. After you think he's dead, I think she tasers him and screws up a bunch of his electronics. So then at some point when he wakes up, his vision of his eyes are like green laser beams, but they're not lasers, because he doesn't burn stuff up, I don't think. Although there's other times where he's like walking around and you see there's sparks and stuff flashing around him. And I'm going, where's that coming from?
Yeah, I think we realized they didn't have the budget of Terminator to actually create a realistic robot
laser. I don't know,
but I don't
care. I liked him.
I didn't mind it, because it just, you know, that's something that I probably would have to do too, because you don't have the ability to have Stan Winston creating this, you know, realistic movement of a creature.
I think he had the big, maybe the biggest budget he's ever had.
Oh well, yeah, because
I read stuff about that.
But just, I mean, I was actually tallying in that explosion, the use of creating snow out on the street, that takes money to be able to do that.
You know, that was a great opening shot too, when she's walking into the I forget where she went first, but she walking into her own store and
The
had
record
that
store.
box of stuff, and they had that the snow was in the kind of effect where it's coming at you, and even though it may not be snowing that hard, you can't see a damn thing. It's like you're going warp on Star Trek or something, you know. And I thought that was really good, because I've driven in that and you can't see shit. That was exactly what it looks like.
I mean, yeah, because I think the part where she first walks out of her car, I'm thinking,
yeah,
you can only create a certain area with snow, and so they had to really somehow manipulate it. And so stuff like that, I know my filmmaker brain should probably shut off and I should just be enjoying the movie. But I was like, oh man, they really put some effort in this. I mean, because there's a lot of vehicles that are destroyed in this. So you can definitely he has a much bigger budget to be able to pull it off, but it works really effectively, because there's some really great, like there's a great scene where they're in the cop car and he breaks that window and he's framed within the middle of that window. It definitely turns very Terminator a good bit of the film.
Yeah, one thing I liked with the lighting and the choice of the cars and everything, even though they had, you know, modern phones, it had a sense of timelessness to it. It felt like it could be the 80s, it felt like it could be in the 90s, it felt like it could be now, which I really appreciated. That it wasn't necessarily set in any real time. It kind of was in its own world.
Yeah, although a lot of the LED lighting is definitely more contemporary.
Well, I mean, in the phones too, right? Because they had
Although I kept thinking, like, if you destroy the police station, who are you going to call to friend?
Well, who was she calling? I know. It's like, who are you calling?
I was like, oh, you're pretty much
Army. What are you doing?
Although I will say, I got really mad at her, because I always hate when characters and they think, oh, I've killed him finally. How many times have you killed him? And like when she shocked him with the shocker thing, I was like, chop his head off. I was mad at her. She just threw it away.
When she had the sledgehammer, you go out and pound that head flat, right?
Yeah. I would totally do that. You got to make sure he's dead.
Well, eventually she does do it, and it doesn't matter.
Or maybe it's just one of those universes where they don't watch horror movies.
Not even Excalibur can kill this thing.
Oh, that was great though.
Yeah, I counted 12, I think, on-screen deaths, and then there was 3. I think there was one cop that they was supposed to go look, and then the ambulance,
yeah, the paramedics.
Yeah, so like another 3, so at least 15 body count.
And I feel really sad, because I really would love Santos to watch this, just to watch
the kid. Oh my
little
God.
kid. Not only
coming through the window,
Santa the kid, he throws the body through the window. I'm like, oh my gosh, this Santa is not playing.
And then Robbie uses the kid as a shield.
Yeah, and also it's like a lot of these movies, the final girl, she doesn't get roughed up as much as other people. Well, this girl gets her ankle chopped into, gets her fingers chopped off. I was like, holy crap.
Yep.
She's put through the ringer through. I was like, but I wow, I applaud that, because she's, although as someone that grew up with working at video stores and owning videotapes, when they're destroying all the tapes in the store, I was feeling kind of sad.
No.
And it's raining, the water thing came on. I'm like, they're damaging so many tapes in that. There was even a Sister Act VHS tape. It was in the background. One thing.
Oh my God. I would never notice that. The one thing that I thought was funny is how the deputy was trying to look like the sheriff. Yeah, like the same cut and everything.
At first, I thought it was.
I know.
You had to see the glasses, I think, was the tell. Well, actually, the shape and but he was great too. I thought he was great. I mean, that's what you see it a lot of times on I don't know what you want to call it,
like procedurals and stuff in cop shows.
Well, people shooting police interactions, that somebody gets irritated about something and then they turn on the authority. It didn't matter what she said. He wasn't listening to her until they got to the police station.
But at least they didn't. It wasn't one of those situations where they didn't, listen to her at all. At least they
Right,
agreed
right,
that
right,
she
right.
wasn't the one that killed him.
Well, and
so I
then,
kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and she's covered head to toe from blood, and one of their
So,
buddies
yeah,
just
what,
got killed, and the sheriff is going, look, we don't think you killed anybody. We're just trying to figure out this story about the robot Santa Claus is a little crazy.
Yeah, we can't really believe that. I liked it when she realized that she was all covered in blood, and you know, it was a character moment that they took some time with, and that was a good moment. Now I probably applaud that choice as well.
I felt really bad I felt really bad when they killed her friend.
I was shocked.
Because I thought he was going to be able to you know, last towards the end, and so I was like, oh crap, man, they're not playing.
Yeah.
It gave
pretty much on her own, right?
Yeah.
From then on with the.
Yeah, I like it when a director can keep you on your toes. You know, it becomes unpredictable, and that helped. That helped quite a bit. Good choice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that, and I think that's the great thing about this. It's like, because we've seen enough slashers in our lifetime where they kind of, you know, seem copycats of each other, and I think this definitely plays around with it a little bit, you know, especially with the indie feel to it, but at the same time, not sort of going the normal route to where you expect certain characters are going to be able to survive or not.
And it still felt retro, even though it wasn't.
It did still feel retro, and I think, I'm not sure what they shot it on, because I almost felt like they put some kind of film filter, because, or unless they shot it on like a lower film, because there's parts of it that are very gritty, especially towards the beginning.
I don't know how I got to hand it to the actors, and then I assume the directors directing, but the way they went through the script there in that first 15 minutes with that rapid fire interchanges, I don't know how many times you'd have to actually rehearse that before you got it. It sounded so natural and off the, you know, it sounded, I thought it was absolutely great, but I can't imagine how hard that would be to do.
Well, and I think that's the thing. It's like when you start incorporating that kind of dialogue, that's definitely very geeky, where you have to be knowledgeable and you have to be communicating with another person. It's kind of hard to pull that off, you know, because that's why you watch movies like High Fidelity. There's things where they have these conversations, but yeah, and a lot of those were shot. There's one part where they go back to her house or whatever, and the camera kind of follows them wrong. It's almost like a oneer at one point. And I was like, wow, how many times? I wonder how many times they had to do that, but it also seemed very natural. It didn't seem like dialogue. It felt like these people just chatting about their geeky likes and playing, you know, roasting each other, making fun of each other. It felt very realistic, and so I think that's what, you know, you felt like you almost like documentary, you know, in parts.
Yeah, and the tension, the sexual tension, and it was growing between them. So when she finally kisses him, it felt.
I was cheering. I was like, man, and then I was like, oh man.
Well, and
they
the arguments.
They definitely weren't wooden. They definitely weren't wooden actors.
The arguments too. The arguments with in the sheriff's department, or even out on the street when she first runs into that one deputy, or when they're trying to when they see what the guy's doing in the neighbor's, what Santa's doing in the neighbor's place, and they're trying to alert her sister and brother-in-law, and they can't get it across to him to shut the hell up and watch what's going on. I mean, that was also, but it felt real, you know. I mean, somebody gets woke up in the middle of the night and, you know, starts getting orders shouted at them. Anyway,
they're not going to listen. They're not going to listen. All right, well, let's go ahead and give our score of 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. This is going to be fun. There are a lot of choices. Christopher, start us off.
Yeah, I really love this. I was really surprised, you know, and again, I was coming into this a little bit scared because I did not like Bliss, but I really enjoyed this, and I think I may have to go on my rotation of Christmas movies now. I'll put it up with a Krampus, you know. I'll give this a I don't know. I'll give it a 4.25 out of 5. I really enjoyed this. It's a really enjoyable, fun film. That I was, you know, with great dialogue, great characters. I think some of the visuals kind of, you know, can be bad for being able to see stuff, but maybe that's just part of the style they're going for. So As for favorite scene, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I know it's kind of weird to pick a sex scene, but I just feel like when they finally connected and they're trying to making their way up
it's so clumsy and
it's clumsy. It seems realistic.
I know.
I know. If you've ever been in those moments where you're passionate between people, it felt very realistic. And then just the intercutting between that and the Santa killing the neighbors next door, just really worked well. It's a very great. A great scene, and I was cheering for them. I was like, yeah, get it on. And also just not to take it the normal traditional way where it's more about the woman's pleasure than the guy's pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud that. So
yeah, they definitely planted that seed early. Wow, that didn't come out right, but you know what I mean.
And Santa came down on him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh no, Jeff, let's quickly look away. What was your score 1 to 5 in your favorite scene?
Well, when they went into the store with the Santa and her friends were having sex in the back, wasn't she yelling, "Don't you finish yet? Don't you finish yet?" Something like that over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Anyway, I'm also giving this a 4.25.
Nice,
and I'm taking, I actually wrote this all down. You guys said it before I brought it up, but in tribute to Santos, it's got to be the death of the kid. It's, I just thought, and you only see the first part of it through the window. You see a silhouette,
Right.
But the whole thing with the kid, the Santa just killed both of his parents extremely violently. And the kid is just down there going, "Did you bring more presents, Santa?" "You did." And it runs over it.
It's like, oh, a shirt.
So yeah. So anyway, and then you guys pointed out too what happens with how that develops as well.
I laughed out so loud when he takes him and he tosses him across the couch. Like, oh my God. Oh, good choice. Good choice. Yeah, this was a blast. Like I said, the only problem is that sometimes the red was a little strong for me, but I think that might be on my aging eyeballs. I was going to give this a 4. I kind of wish I was giving it more because I believe it may deserve it after this conversation, but 4 is what I had. My favorite scene. Okay. There at one point the Santa like crashes into all the cop cars with the ambulance, and then the 2 police that they have, the sheriff and the deputy, go running out there, right? Because, well, that's their job. They even say so. And the sheriff goes around and goes out behind, and of course you kind of expect him to come walking out like with an axe in his head or something, or something like that. But no, he gets tossed over. I think it lands on one of the burning car. And okay, so that was enough. But what really sold me on that scene was later when Tori gets in the car and drives into the ambulance and drives away. He's still on the car, but he's on fire, burning. Such a great choice. It's that attention to detail and that fun that I think really helps sell this film. So it was a blast. It was a blast.
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, there's your holiday fun movie. If you get to catch it in the theater, let us know what you think, because that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. And of course, it'll be on SHUDDER, so we know you can watch it. Leave your comments down below. We want to hear what you think about this. Christopher, Jeff, thank you for joining me. Like I said, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was.
I love this kind of ho-ho horror, if you know what
I mean. All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Gruesome Magazine.